Scholars of Swift, it's Professor Gallagher, and in this lesson, let's sweeten up your Swift functions with some syntactic sugar. We'll cover Swift function overloading, functions with multiple argument labels, and functions with no argument labels. Let's drink up that big learning. Swifters, this lesson's going to be inside of a playground. I'm working inside the functions playground that we used in our Bring On to Funk lecture, but it's okay to create a new playground if you'd like. Since I've got prior lesson code in here, I'm going to comment that out, and I'm going to enter a new comment with the title, Function Overloading. So here's the concept. In many computer languages, you can't have two functions with the same name. If you try that, you'll get an error. But in Swift, two or more functions can have the same name as long as their parameters differ. The names of parameters, the types of parameters, the numbers of parameters, or the use of return values or not, or even different types that are returned in the return values. And you may have noticed this in code completion. For example, here are some different options that show up when we type .remove after an array. Remove all, remove last, and remove first. These are all overloaded functions since more than one function has the same name, but this is okay because the different functions have either no parameter or one parameter. And this is why it's very important in Swift code completion to make sure that you're selecting the option that you want. So I'm going to quickly show you some examples of function overloading, what works and what doesn't work in the playgrounds. I'm going to create a function named hello with one parameter, name, which is a string, and inside the curlies we'll have one statement, print hello string interp name. Now I could also write a second function with the name hello, but this time I'm going to include two parameters, a title which is a string, as well as a name which is a string. Now inside I'm going to print hello, and then in string interp's title, and then in string interp name. Swift allows this. These two functions have different numbers of parameters. They're considered to be two different functions. And notice what shows up in code completion if I type hello. I see both functions, the one with one parameter and the one with two parameters. So I can say hello, select the value with just the name, pass in sting, but I can also say hello, select the value with a title and a name, and pass in lady for title and gaga for the name. Both these functions execute with no errors. But if I try to create a function with the exact same name and parameters, like if I copy the first hello function, paste it down below, keep the definition the same but just modify the inside of the function, Swift eventually complains, invalid redeclaration of hello name. And notice it refers to the function as hello name, not just hello. So in Swift, the function's name and the parameters and return values are what make it unique. So you can write yourself a note and comment, can't declare a function with the same name and parameters. And I'll comment out this bad function. And I'm also going to comment out the working function overload code, and the last concepts I'm going to demonstrate are related to function argument labels. Now what I'm going to show you here is often referred to as syntactic sugar in Swift. That means that these techniques aren't necessary to use, but they can make your code easier to read and use. And to demonstrate this, I'm first going to write a function called sayHello with a parameter name that's a string. And all this does is it prints out, hey there name. And I can call the function like this, sayHello name, passing in the string prof g. Now I'm going to comment out the function call I just made, but I'm going to leave it here so that you can compare it with a change. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to put in what's called an external argument label. I'm going to do that right in front of name, and the external argument label I'm going to use is to, T-O. So make sure there's a space between T-O and name, and T-O is going to be used as my external argument label. It's going to show up whenever I call the function. Name isn't going to show up, but I'm still going to use name and only name inside my function. So watch what happens in code completion. When I type say, I see sayHello to string, which some would argue is actually a nicer way to read and use this function. Oh, I want to say hello to a string value, so I'll press return and I'll just pass in that string value, say hello to prof g. So again, to isn't used anywhere inside my function, it's only used as the external argument label. It'd be weird to have a variable named to, so the second value, the parameter name, is still what's used inside of my function. That works great. So again, just syntactic sugar. And if you're a fan of the movie Scarface, well, you can say hello to my little friend. Finally, it's possible to preface a parameter name with an underscore if you don't want to use any argument labels in the function call. And again, you've already seen this in Swift. Here's a call to foreground color. And you see what it looks like in code completion below? We have an underscore just before color. So this function takes color as a parameter, but it doesn't include the name color in the function call as an argument label. There are no argument labels, because if it did, then the function call would look like this. Foreground color, color. Since the function name already has color in it, repeating color twice seems redundant. So now let's use playgrounds to show a simple example where eliminating an argument label might make sense. So I'm going to create a function to average two numbers, and I'm going to create it first the old way, func average two numbers, and in parentheses num1 colon double, comma num2 colon double, and I'm going to return the value with an arrow, double. And in between the curlies, I just calculate what the average is going to be. I'll return num1 plus num2 divided by 2.
Now if I select average two numbers and code completion, notice the two argument labels show up. Those are the same as the parameter name, num1 and num2, but it can be argued, since this function's already called average two numbers, do I really need it to say num1 and num2 in here? If you agree that that's unnecessary, then let's comment out the average two numbers call so we can compare it with the change we're about to make. Then let's call average two numbers, and look at this. We have no argument labels in here. We just type in the two numbers for the function average two numbers. That looks cleaner. Some more syntactic sugar for you.
So hopefully this brief video helped you understand why some Swift functions have the same name, what two labels mean in Swift functions, and what the underscore means in a Swift function. And using this knowledge, you should be able to polish up your Swift code with some of these nice touches, adding some of the professionalism of syntactic sugar. Swift on! And be sure to check out the full playlist of my University Swift UI course for absolute beginners.